Thank you for tuning into episode 7 of Atomic Talks. In this episode, I sat down with Ethan, who's objectively the strongest person at our gym. Ethan is the youngest person I've had on the podcast so far, but he's brutally strong. He has the number 1 spot on our 1,000-pound club board on the gym. He also has the number 1 spot on the bodyweight coefficient board. He can deadlift 600 pounds, squat about 550 pounds, and can throw around 315 on the bench for reps. The crazy part is, Ethan is only getting started. I got a good feeling he's going to get a lot stronger than this over time. He's not only strong, but he's also very intelligent, so I had a great time sitting down and talking with him during this episode. If you guys enjoy this episode, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more. All right, welcome back to another episode of Atomic Talks. Today I'm here with my arch nemesis, Ethan. I say arch nemesis because he's got like the number 1 spot on our powerlifting board here. I'm on number 2, so he's going to be my arch nemesis for a little while.
Yeah, it's a healthy competition that keeps it going.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Speaking of healthy competition, how long have you been wanting to get on that board? Has that been the goal of yours for a while?
I think it's been the goal since I started coming to this gym about 5 years ago now.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so as soon as you got here, you were like, I want to be on that board.
Yeah, I think the first board that I set my mind to is the bodyweight one. I'm a lot bigger now, but when I started coming here, I probably weighed 120 pounds. Wasn't really looking to that 1,000-pound board, but I think I ended up doing the math, and I was like, I could be number 5 or 6 on that bodyweight board. But of course, being a competitive person, I didn't want to be number 5 or number 6, so I had to wait a little bit.
Yeah. So were you purposely waiting to clinch that number 1 spot before you
I wasn't waiting to clinch the number 1, but I was like waiting till I was like 2 or 3,
Yeah. No, I can feel that. That's kind of the same way I thought of it too. And like, what started your journey in lifting to begin with?
So it kind of goes way back. I think I've always been an athletic person, sports, bike riding. First sport I played was soccer. Then I swam competitive like club for a long time. Was pretty good at that. And then I think whenever I was in 6th and 7th grade, so my dad has always been an athletic person, always worked out. He started going to CrossFit gym, so TB CrossFit. It's a big CrossFit gym down here. And he would take me sometimes with him. I think that's when I kind of started getting into that like lifting environment. Obviously, CrossFit's kind of different than the training style I have now, but still kind of like that gym vibe where like you're around people that have a common goal and stuff, and really started thinking that was kind of cool. I didn't really do any big workouts. I do little stuff here and there. For Memorial Day, I would do the Murph with him a couple times. So that was you'd run a mile, 1,000 pull-ups, 50. It's 1,000 pull-ups, and then a certain number of air squats and push-ups, and then you run another mile. And so I did that a few times with him, and I think that was kind of like my intro into the gym.
Dang, and how long do you get to do the 1,000 pull-ups? That's
or 100. It's
100, okay.
Yeah. There's no time limit, really. It's some people do it straight where they do their the 100 pull-ups right away, and then other people break it up. They'll do like 10 reps of pull-ups, 5 reps of air squats, whatever, and do different sets. But there's not a time limit. I guess the goal is to get the best time you can.
Nice.
I think that's a big thing with CrossFit. It's not really time limit. It's just pushing that time boundary back.
Yeah, okay. Kind of setting PRs sort of thing on as far as time goes.
Yeah.
And what age were you whenever you were doing the CrossFit?
I was, probably 12 and 13. I wasn't really lifting heavy, which I think is fairly good at like a young age, but I was starting to get into that stuff, which I think was kind of beneficial for sure.
So you would say it's probably not good for young kids to be?
I don't know. I think I haven't really looked into too much studies, but I think like the way we push ourselves, probably not. I do think they're like, it's fine for kids to use weights. It's not going to like stunt growth, but for us, like deadlifting as much as we can, I think it's probably not the best for younger children that are still like developing. I think to a point, obviously, we're young, like teenagers and stuff. We're still developing, but I think our bodies have grown enough to be able to handle like certain loads.
Yeah, that makes a
Yeah.
lot of sense to me. Yeah, I'm not super familiar with the literature on that, but I could imagine that at a
Yeah.
certain age you probably shouldn't be pushing too heavy weight. So you started with swimming, then
Yeah.
into soccer, then into CrossFit.
Yeah.
And what age did you do powerlifting in high school?
I did my senior year. That was the first year that it was an NMAA sport. So,
Nice.
Yeah.
And what made you get into that? Like, what made you choose that?
So I did. I played football from 8th grade till I graduated my senior year, and football is probably one of the main sports that has a big lifting emphasis.
Mm-hmm.
So even my freshman year, we kind of had like a lift-a-thon like fundraiser thing. It was like power cleans and stuff. I guess kind of a thing that stood out to me then is I think out of like my friend group, I was like one of the smaller kids, and I was like the only one that couldn't power clean 135. I was like close, but I couldn't do it, and like that, kind of like remember that a lot now, But so football, that's probably where I got into some of the core movements. And then, so my freshman year was 2019, 2020. That's when COVID happened. And my dad has a home gym, and that's kind of like where I started like squatting a bunch and doing deadlifts, and quickly found out that I'm built for deadlifts. Like, I have long arms. So I guess for people who don't know me and Adam, I'm 5'8" and I have a 6'2" wingspan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have a 6'2" wingspan. So I got pretty long arms, where Adam's a pretty symmetrical guy. You're what, 6'2"?
I'm like 6 foot, but yeah, we have the same wingspan.
Same wingspan. So I got a little cheat there. Makes it harder for me to bench. So there's downsides. It's not all positives. But yeah, so that's kind of when I
bench more than me. That's okay.
But yeah, I think that's honestly where I was like, okay, I'm good at this, especially with deadlifts. Like, I honestly wasn't that good at squats. Was horrible at bench, but was really good at deadlifts. And I think that like really kind of kicked off the like, oh, I'm strong and like liking to lift heavy.
And what age were you when you first tried the deadlift? Your freshman year, you said?
Yeah, it was my freshman year.
And what were you starting at? Like,
I think I have some videos. I think I pulled 315 my freshman year. I probably weighed 120 pounds. Pulled 315 for sure. I'll have to look back. We'll probably insert some videos here of some early lifting stuff, because I like to record a lot of my lifts, and I've been that way for a while, which is kind of cool to see. At this point, I think for anyone it's good to record your lifts. One, to be able to go over it and look like you might not have noticed that you did something weird, and just have it for memories. Like, you might think like, dang, I'm really strong now, but then when you see it like years later, you're like, I've gotten so much better. My form is so much better. Like, kind of really puts things into perspective, because it's kind of hard. Like, sometimes we feel like we're not anywhere close to our goals. We need to remember that we made it a long way.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And it's kind of interesting how this gym, the whole culture around filming your lifts is a lot different.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this gym, like, nobody thinks anything of it whenever we pull out a camera and we film our lifts.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know if that's the true at every gym, to be honest with you, because it almost seems like at the Planet Fitness that I used to work at and things like that. I mean, Planet Fitness is different.
Right. No judgment zone.
Yeah, no judgment zone, so you can't really, you're not even supposed to have your phone out or whatever over there.
Yeah. I think the first people who I like noticed kind of started filming tripods here was probably Miranda and Harley. They were the first people I ever saw use tripods, and I think Will started doing it too. And then obviously I've recorded just setting up my phone with like a metal plate, and I know Adam did too for a while. We just like set our phone where it fit. But tripods are nice. They're a pretty nice invention to have for filming lifts.
Oh yeah, definitely. And so you started doing the deadlift first,
mm-hmm.
and then what was your original squat numbers looking like? Is that,
I don't even know, maybe 135. Honestly, I have a video of me squatting 315. I think end of my freshman year, but it was not parallel. It was definitely like more of an ego lift for sure. Like, it wasn't even close to parallel, to be honest. So I probably could have squatted 225 maybe, like with proper form.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
And in your football, you said you did football as well, right?
Yeah.
And what ages were you whenever you did football?
8th grade to senior year, so 14 to 18. Yeah.
Would you say that like the the quarter squats were like, was that something you'd see a lot in football?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, especially especially at the beginning. I think that football program's gone a long way. Some of the football coaches are powerlifting coaches now, so I think they've gotten a lot better, and now they actually call quarter squats. Like, it's good for explosiveness, but if you're actually squatting, that's not how to do it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And I honestly don't think I could actually quarter squat something. I probably am weaker at quarter squats now.
You can probably squat full to death more than you can quarter. Yeah. I would say this might be the same for me. Honestly, I haven't even tried a quarter squat in a long time, and so from there you were doing football that got you into the lifting, and then your senior year you decided like they opened up the powerlifting for the actual real sport, and you're like, I want to try this.
Yeah, that's pretty much how it happened. Kind of like I had said, so during COVID, workout at home. Honestly, just doing random workouts. I deadlift some days, squat, run, whatever. I was bored, had so much time, which was a good thing. I think I really grew a lot from COVID. I know it definitely halted some people, but I think it helped me figure out who I am and just what I like to do. And then coming back from COVID, it was back into football and lifting, and I think a lot of people were excited to have a sport again. So everyone was excited to work out, excited to do stuff. And then junior year is when it was actually January of my junior year. So January of 2022 is whenever I first got a gym membership here. I came with some friends as a guest, and then I liked it, and it's close to my house, so I signed up, and that's when I definitely started lifting a lot more, figuring out squats and my bench. And then senior year I was already pretty good at lifting, and from football some of the coaches knew that I was pretty strong, and so when they said that we were going to do powerlifting, I was probably one of the first people that were like, oh, you need to do this. I was like, that's cool, I love lifting, might as well do it for a sport.
Yeah, that is really cool.
Yeah.
And would you be following a program or anything like that?
So the powerlifting coaches, they had powerlifting practice, and they had specific programs that they'd have people on. I tried it. I think I went for the first week of practices and didn't like it, and I just worked out here. I guess I kind of had a program. It wasn't super strict, but it's kind of what I liked, and it worked good for me at the time. It's kind of what I stuck with doing, and then I would just show up for the meets.
Nice. So you did all your training over here.
Yeah.
And you'd be following that program that they kind of set for you?
Sort of. I'd deviate from it a lot, but for the compound movements mostly, yeah.
Nice. And by deviate, you're thinking just whatever felt best?
Whatever felt best in terms of accessories. I think we've had this discussion a lot. I hate powerlifting training. Just I get bored of it, so I have to, if I'm going to do my compounds powerlifting style where some days we're not pushing ourselves that hard, I have to hit a lot of accessories that probably wouldn't normally have been programmed in.
Why do you think that you hate it? Or
I think some days it can be boring. You don't feel accomplished.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Do you think it's because of the lower rep nature of it, or
not the lower rep? I think there's a reason for it, but days that we have hit a single at RPE 6, you're gonna finish that single and be like, okay, that was easy, that was RPE 6, and then you kind of don't really feel like you accomplished too much. You didn't push yourself that hard. So sometimes I like to push myself a little bit more on the accessories after that.
Nice.
Yeah.
And how do you decide on what accessories you're going to be doing?
Now my stuff's programmed, but back then it was just if it was a squat day, staples like leg extension, some Smith machines, squats sometimes some leg press. Just went with the flow. It was honestly whatever I felt like doing.
Yeah.
I think that was a good way to just it's not like, oh darn it, I need to do this now. It's more like, oh, I want to do this.
On the topic of it being boring, I feel like I can't remember who it was that I heard this from, but they said something along the lines of like the people that are going to be really good at powerlifting are going to be the people that are going to be able to like withstand doing super repetitive, boring things like day in and day out, basically.
Yeah, which is, I think it's interesting because, you know, different power, like, it doesn't have to be boring. And I think that's kind of like the problem. I think with those preset powerlifting programs, yeah, they're boring. See, for some people, and I'm assuming for maybe for the like most of the population of people, like this is probably the best way, but no one's body responds the same. I think there's definitely some of the top power lifters, like Russell, he likes doing a lot of accessories and pushing really hard on those accessories, whereas someone else probably doesn't.
Yeah, that makes sense. How do you think that should people just kind of try everything and then just see what they like
definitely
best?
think see what you get the most growth from. I feel like as you develop in the gym, your body goes through different stages. Newbie gains are awesome. You get really strong really quick. You probably sleep better. You have a drive. Like, you're really excited that you're seeing these gains. And then after a while, I feel like that kind of drive and excitedness slows down a little bit, and that's where you need to stay disciplined. But then that's also a good chance to maybe start trying something new. You've been in the gym for, let's just say, a year and a half now. You're used to the movements. You're starting to like learn different accessories, different weird ways to use a bench to do something. And I think that kind of keeps you excited about it and helps you push through that kind of like boring stage.
Yeah, so you'd say probably like nuance is sort of important in your program.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you personally like to stay disciplined whenever you don't feel like doing certain things?
I've honestly noticed the days that I feel the most like I don't want to go to the gym or make myself go to the gym probably have some of the best workouts. On the other hand, it is disappointing when you're really excited to go to the gym and you just don't feel strong when you get there. You just don't have the energy. You keep getting distracted. But honestly, some of those days you just turn the music up a little bit and you just push yourself. And if you can push yourself one set, you kind of, it's that mentality like, oh, I can do this again. Like there's that, I'm sure you've heard it. It's that saying like the first thing you should do is make your bed every morning. Because it's not because you want to, but if you can just do that, it creates like a domino effect. Like, you're taking the initiative to do the things that you don't want to do, and it kind of starts your day off right. So I think it's starting your workout off right, whether that's pushing hard in your first sets, making sure you stretch good. Like, you got to start it off right so you can finish it strong.
Yeah,
because if you come into it with like a this sucks like attitude, I'm just gonna like half-ass this set, not push really hard, then I feel like the rest of your workout's probably going to follow the same way.
That makes a lot of sense. That's actually something that Jeff and I were talking about recently. Mm-hmm. And I kind of like that concept quite a bit. How did you come along to that concept or come up with that concept yourself?
Honestly, getting frustrated with myself. I think it's easy to get into a cycle of not really wanting to come to the gym or being like bored with the gym, feeling low energy after like a long day of work. And it honestly probably makes your day worse by having a crappy workout, because then you just feel disappointed in yourself. Like, I came to the gym for an hour and a half and I really didn't work out that hard. And I think just getting tired of it and telling myself, all right, you got to go. Like, we got to get this set. Like, that's kind of what I'm thinking in my head. Like, we got to get this set done. Like, let's push it.
And then how did you come up with the concept of it applying with like the making your bed in the morning sort of thing?
I think that's actually kind of a saying from like, I guess, an ex-Navy SEAL that I heard at some point. And obviously I think that kind of theory stands that if you can do those small things in the morning to kind of start your day off right, like everything kind of follows suit. Like,
setting the tone for the day.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Like, rather than kind of just being lazy when you get up. If you get up and like, all right, I got this. Today's gonna be a good day. Like, let's go. Let's make our bed. Like, let's make ourselves a good breakfast. Like, let's go.
Yeah. And like you mentioned about the concept of sometimes when you're not feeling it that day, and then all of a sudden it turns out to be a really good workout day, sort of thing. Was that so Ethan has this legendary moment here at the gym. That's probably one of the most epic squat moments that's happened here, where he squatted 405 for 10 reps.
Nice, come on. Come on. Come on. All day. Keep going. Come on. Another one. Yeah, come on.
That day, were you feeling it? Like, was it just like you're super on top of it that day, or is it?
It was a really long day. I think that was like at 7 o'clock at night or something here. And honestly, I had a really long day, but I think it was fitting into my program where that was the day that I could do that. And I was honestly really excited about it all day. And I was like, I didn't just wait all day just to not do this. So, I guess to answer your question, no, that wasn't a day where I wasn't feeling good. But it was one of those days that probably would have been easy to be like, it's late, I'm tired, I'm just going to go home. But I was really excited about that. So, and I knew I could do it. So, and I also have this thing where I tend to undershoot myself and say, all right, guys, I'm going to do 8 reps. All right, guys, I'm going to do 2 reps. And then sometimes with that rep stuff, I'll just start feeling myself. And I think that happens to a lot of people with like high rep stuff. So,
do you think that it's harder to gauge like RP on the higher rep stuff?
Oh yeah, for sure. Okay. For sure. Because I think in powerlifting, once you kind of get like, you know, all the sayings, how your body works, a misgroove can make or break your set, you know. Like if we're pushing like, let's just say 5 reps at RP 8, it's going to be a pretty hard set. If you misgroove that third one, it's going to make for a really hard 4th. And then all of a sudden your RP 8 just went to like 9 or 10. So
yeah, that definitely makes sense. And when you did that 405 for 10 reps, how were you feeling after that?
Definitely like cardiovascularly fatigued for sure. I think that's kind of how it is. Honestly, my muscles probably could have done a few more reps, but like that air intake was not there anymore, you know. Especially with 405 pounds on your back, it honestly doesn't matter how strong you are. At a certain point, that's that much weight on your back that you're trying to breathe and get that oxygen to your muscles. And so it kind of feels like you just ran a sprint, honestly. Like,
dang, wow.
Yeah,
it's been a long time since I've gone like that high on reps before. Yeah. And I haven't gotten to see the video of that yet, but
I have it, so
okay, cool.
Well, we can put it in this and I'll show you.
Sweet, cool. Yeah. And on that last rep, would you say it was like, were you struggling? Was it slower? Was it getting...
Mentally, yeah, but I think a lot of times, you know, watch the video and I was like, oh, that wasn't that bad, you know?
Yeah.
But I think I can feel my body where it's moving smoothly because I'm pushing really hard, but like internally your body's just dying.
Yeah,
you know, my legs are like, please, like, no more. Like, there's at the point where I think your kind of secondary muscles are kind of like, you start feeling those kind of kick in a little bit more because they're just trying to like support everything. So that's a lot of squats, a pretty fatiguing movement to begin with. I think it's probably the most fatiguing.
And what do you think about like the concept of pushing squats to failure?
It's awesome.
Awesome
and horrible.
Because I hear some things about people talk about how like you shouldn't push squats to failure completely just because it's like a dangerous thing to fail on squats or thing, like in the sense of you have to have people there to get the bar off your back.
Yeah, I agree to an extent. I don't think if I had 2 spotters, so I had Isaiah and Isaac spotting me for that with 405. And I think over a while in the gym, I felt enough times I'm pretty confident in bailing under a squat But at the same time, yeah, I don't think I would have done that without spotters. But I don't know. I think different things work for different people, and just because it might not be the best thing doesn't mean you can't grow from it.
Mhm.
And I think there's a lot of talk in the gym community about different things like, oh, that's not the best way to like do it, but by how much? Like, it might be super close. I think pushing yourself to failure is a good thing for your mind. I think it's mostly for your mind. It's not like your muscles aren't going to grow from it. Like, they're going to grow. Maybe not as much. Like, you're not going to. I don't think you'll notice. Like maybe a super long term study of you doing squats to failures like 3 times a week. Maybe you'll notice, but once every 2 weeks, once every 3 weeks, it's really. I think it's not noticeable.
Yeah, and when you say a failure is good for your mind, can you elaborate on that a little bit?
I think knowing that you like push yourself to your absolute limit, and I think in powerlifting it's important to know what that limit is, especially for even like meets. Like, what's your body feel like when you're pushing yourself as hard as it can? I think there's a lot of times we know like there's a fine line between I pushed myself to failure because like I failed, or I don't think I was going to get another one, so I stopped. Like,
yeah.
Because who's to say that you weren't going to be able to push through that next one, or maybe even another one? I think knowing, like, it's more of like learning your body. So mentally, like, knowing how you feel under stuff, and it helps you gauge, like, for instance, your second attempt in a powerlifting meet. Probably your most important one. Helps you gauge, like, okay, can I go up 5 pounds? Can I go up 15 pounds? I think it's important to know how hard you can push.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That's actually something that I would like to do after this next meet is push some sets to complete failure,
Yeah. I think it is a little easier to do with higher reps. I think maybe like 4 or above. It's a little hard, like, because if you're pushing 3 reps to failure, you're going heavy. Not to say that's not like a good thing to push yourself to RPE 10 with heavy stuff, but that, I don't know, that might be a little bit dangerous.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like dangerous on like the back and things like that for deadlifts or what?
Yeah, back, everything. I think deadlifts is probably one of the least intimidating lifts to fail.
That makes sense.
Just set it back down, basically. I think definitely though for squat and stuff, whenever we hit like top sets at like RP 8 or 9, like even on racking it, we're not completely stable all the time, So pushing to, if you're doing something that you can do for 5 reps, you can do it for 5 reps, and you can try it for 6 or 7. You're gonna be a lot more confident on racking it. You're gonna be stable. Your ankles, everything's gonna be able to hold it a lot better.
One thing that my trainer has mentioned in a couple of his videos before, and I'd be kind of curious to see what you think of this concept. He thinks that usually people will overestimate their reps in reserve on lower rep, like heavier sets, and then underestimate their reps in reserve on a higher rep, I guess lower weight set sort of thing.
Yeah, I think I'd agree on that. I think it's kind of like I don't know the best way to word this, but the higher you are in reps, I guess the less, like, if you think of you're doing a set and there's 10 reps, right? That last 10 is your last one, like complete failure. It's like 100% of the effort you could put into something. Doing 3 reps and your last one's to failure, now that's each rep is 33% of that. So 33% of like the energy that your body can push out is a lot more than 10%. So I think it's harder to gauge, like, can my body put out a little bit more, or can it put out a lot more? I think.
Okay, yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah,
I don't know like the best way to like word that, but it's each rep's less fatiguing on your body the lighter the weight is, so it's easier to do like another one. Whereas in that lower rep range, each rep is a lot more fatiguing on your body.
Yeah, that does make sense. That definitely makes sense. And then earlier you mentioned about like kind of people will talk about the best way to do things, and then you kind of question like how much better is it to do it like that versus like this. Do you think that people have gotten a little bit obsessed with like optimization or anything like that? Like,
Yeah, I think it's good. I know a lot of people give Jeff Nippard crap, but I think he takes the actual scientific approach to things, and I think he's gotten a lot better with like more of his long-term studies that he's done. I think people kind of took the wrong like information from what he's trying to say. Like Jeff Nippard saying, "This is what worked best for me." Doesn't mean it's going to work the best for everyone else, and it also doesn't mean that there's not other stuff that is almost just as good, that might be easier to perform or might work in better with might work at your gym. You might not have the equipment for it, but that doesn't mean it's not a necessity to get bigger. Like I think he's done a really good job of showing like what works best for him and the best, like the absolute best way. But I think there's a bunch of other stuff that is really good, which it doesn't mean because it's not the best you shouldn't do it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And then on that same note, like how important do you think the concept of enjoyment is whenever you're
I think
programming
it's
yourself?
extremely important. I think different people enjoy different things, right? Some people, I think most people enjoy a pump, right? But it's pretty easy to get a pump. And so being able to push yourself is what's like most important to me, feeling accomplished. I think the only way for me to do that is to really push myself, and where some days I'm walking out of here and I'm like, I'm gonna be sore tomorrow, and it's almost like a good feeling that you push yourself that hard, and that's what I enjoy. I know other people with like they might not work out as much, but they'll go run. They work up a sweat and they feel like they work hard, and so, or they're enjoying like running in nature, hiking, for example. Like hiking can be pretty difficult at times. So you feel accomplished once you get to the peak of that mountain, and at the same time you enjoy the scenery along the way. I think for the gym, the end of your workout, you're tired, you accomplished something, and you enjoyed that pump that you got. I think, yeah, finding out what makes you happy in the gym is important to a lot of people, especially not everyone's competitive, So finding ways to keep yourself like in the gyms is better than not being in the gym.
Oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, like doing it's the most important thing at a certain extent.
Yeah.
And then you talked about Jeff Nippard. Do you have like any favorite fitness influencers or anything?
Yeah.
Like that?
So as far as I watched Jeff Nippard a little bit. I think more now. He's definitely blown up pretty recently. I think all-time favorite is going to be the Trent twins. I love their energy.
Really?
I think it just gets you like hyped for the gym. I don't know if it's just like a guy thing, but like it's that like run through a wall like attitude, which sometimes we need when we're going to go for a big lift. And then so I like the Trent twins, and then along kind of similar lines to them, but natural, I like Lex Little a lot. He's been in the gym community a long time. Definitely a really strong dude and a really big dude who's kind of like almost to me shown that like you don't have to just do powerlifting or just do bodybuilding, that you can like switch it up and still enjoy it,
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely like him a lot. And then same thing with the Trent twins. They're really strong. They've done powerlifting meets. They both bench over 500 pounds and stuff. At the same time, they do bodybuilding.
Yeah, they do have some pretty crazy physiques too.
Yeah.
And like this is something I've seen sort of recently from a couple different influencers, and my coach has even made a couple videos about this, talking about how basically saying that powerlifters should train more like bodybuilders.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Do you think there's something to that there?
I think there's a few different takeaways that I take from that. I guess first with the training aspect, I think like I think kind of like I said, like pushing yourself, not being afraid like to veer off program sometimes. Obviously, your coach is gonna be pissed if you had an RPE 6 day and you decided that you're gonna fail like a top single.
Yeah.
Obviously that's their job. You're paying them to be pissed at you for going off program. But like, I think bodybuilders are really good at being in tune with their bodies more, knowing those days that they can push themselves more, and knowing that it's okay to like something's not feeling right or going off program a little bit. I think it's okay. I think a lot of times with powerlifting, like okay, this needs to be exact. So I think that's probably the biggest takeaway, and that's probably what your coach probably thinks about it too, is just being okay with like things not going to plan.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think in the video that he made, it was kind of along the lines of about like how basically long-term strength gains in powerlifting kind of come down to hypertrophy.
Yeah.
And that like bodybuilders tend to train specifically for hypertrophy.
Right.
So like people that are trying to make long-term gains inside of powerlifting should be also focused on hypertrophy training as well.
Mm-hmm.
At least that's what I gathered from the videos that he made about it.
I agree. I also think not all powerlifters, but I think there's quite a few that obviously your physique isn't everything, but I feel like there's a lot that kind of aren't worried about their physique. And that's not to say like anything bad, but it's probably a lot more diet related. I think powerlifters kind of get it's kind of a cliche to be kind of lazy as a powerlifter. There's the memes like, all right, finish my set, I'm gonna go take a nap or sit in a lawn chair, wait my 5 minutes or whatever, but I think bodybuilders are really good at being very strict at their diets and knowing, when it's time for, okay, we got to lock in, we got to cut for their show. For example, for us, it might be, okay, we're a little bit over, let's lock in, let's slowly cut down so we're close to our weight class, so we're not having to cut and starve ourselves last minute, or getting the nutrients we need, like our muscles need those carbs to be able to handle heavy load and stuff, and our bodies need protein to recover, and I think bodybuilders are a lot better at that. Obviously, it's more important for a physique, but I think it's extremely important from a strength standpoint. I don't know about you, but I'm definitely weaker when I can tell I haven't ate good that day. So I think that's more important for powerlifters that more people need to focus on.
Yeah, I would say I'm the same way. And on that kind of note, what do you think about like really early morning lifts for powerlifting? That's something you kind of try to veer away from just because of the lack of calories at that point? Or
yeah, I think I've definitely, whenever I started coming to the gym, I'd come before school, so I'd come at like 5:30 or 6 in the morning, and I used to not eat at all, and then I'd have I'd have like applesauce and a Cliff Bar, and then it turned into like a bowl of cereal, but then with heavy lifts, it turned into me not having enough time to digest that, so, almost throwing up during lifts that I'm not even pushing myself that hard on. Started coming up, and then I started coming in the afternoons and realized that I felt a lot better. Not to say I got good workouts in the morning, but I think once I came in the afternoons and realized how much better my workouts were, I couldn't go back to it. Now if I work out in the morning, I need to get up at least probably an hour and a half to 2 hours before that and eat something right away, give my body time to digest. I can lift off of one meal, but less than that I can't. And I think being able to hydrate too, when you wake up, you're the most dehydrated that you should be throughout the day,
Yeah, you just like went like 8 hours without water. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That makes me think like the 5:30 a.m. before school, man. Like that just kind of to me points towards like your discipline, dude. That's crazy. Like,
I think it's definitely crazy too. Looking back at it, I don't know. I guess I just had a lot of energy. The reason for that was usually whatever sport I was in, I had practice after school.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, I didn't want to come late at night. But so yeah, that's why I'd come in the morning. I'd come in the morning before school, go home, take a shower, go to school. So.
Like I realize that like all, most high schoolers are probably going to be a little bit sleep deprived and things like that. And, but it's not something that usually we're thinking about. You know what I mean?
No.
Like when you're in high school,
Yeah.
it's like you don't care about sleep so much. But like even then, whenever I was in high school, I don't think that I would have had that kind of discipline to be able to just be like, I'm gonna get up early before school and go and like. What do you think makes you like that? I guess like what is there something?
I think I've always been an early morning person. Even though I feel like it has gotten a lot harder to get up as early. I think maybe I just spend more energy throughout the day, so I need that sleep more. But I think the biggest thing back then was my friend Adriano that I'd work out with. We both kind of agreed that we'd come at this time, and so it was like both of us holding each other accountable. Like I don't want to be the dude who slept in and like he had to work out alone, you know?
Yeah.
Or if he slept in, I would have to go to the gym so I could talk crap and be like, "Come on, bro, you slept in," you know? So I think that was part of it, to be honest. Like, so I think that definitely helped me, not wanting to let someone else down. Helps me a lot.
Yeah. And would there be a competitive aspect to that, you think? Or
I'm not sure about the sleeping in part for him, but definitely in the gym. Definitely in the gym, and that also I think made me push a little bit harder. Kind of going back to that squats to failure thing, we would have. I still have 2 leg days, but back then, my Monday would be lower rep, higher weight, and then Thursday it would be pushing the squats to failure, and so it's that kind of like brotherly energy, like, crap, I just pushed my friend to failure, he's about to throw up, so I'm screwed now, So I think that definitely helps me a lot. We just like, or if I was like, dude, I'm not feeling it today, you'd be like, I don't care, go lift, or I'd be the same way. So I think that helped a lot.
Yeah. And then let's rewind a little bit back to the concept of like powerlifters versus bodybuilders on diet.
Yeah.
So I think that's a great point, honestly, just because, like bodybuilders, they eat a diet, even when they're bulking, they're kind of concerning themselves at least somewhat with staying lean.
Yeah.
And it almost seems like powerlifters, like whenever they're bulking, it's like,
did we ever?
Dude, yeah.
So, so like right now, I got up to about 198, and I'm back down to like 193 right now. But like, that 198 was not 198 of just beef and potatoes. I had my core meals beef and potatoes, but then it was Ben and Jerry's. Just like I was trying to push it, not strategically. Honestly, I didn't even care. I was just like, I gotta hit 200. I think bodybuilding does get some of that in the bulking in the off season. Mike loves his fast food, loves eating, but I think we see more people like Will who they're super disciplined in their off season to add as much like good size to their body. Not to say like you can't eat a little bit dirtier when you're trying to gain weight. I think it definitely helps, but if you eat like junk, like you're gonna feel it for sure. And I think it's probably like this goes to just people not even in the gym too. They eat really bad. They probably don't notice how bad that they feel because that's their normal. But if they ate really clean for a month and they went back to that, they'd be like, "Oh, I don't like how I feel. Why do I feel like this?" And so I think that's kind of how I realized like, oh, I need this much food. I need to make sure I have more carbs, more hydrated. Because whenever I did those things, I realized how good I felt. And so, like, that's my baseline. And so when I'm below that, I'm like, crap, I don't feel good.
And how much carbs do you usually shoot for?
I'm really bad at actually tracking, like, macros. I've used MyFitnessPal quite a bit, but at this point, I think I've just, like, visualize it, to be honest.
Yeah, I get you.
I guess, like, if you want, we can go through kind of a normal day of eating.
That'd be cool.
So
really
usually
cool.
in the morning, get up, make sure that I got some water right away, and then depending on the day, my days that I don't have that much time, I'll kind of have like some pre-made just eggs and sausage. Sometimes it's eggs and ground beef. Sausage I think tastes a lot better with eggs, but it is more fatty, more greasy. But I'll have, I think it's about probably two and a half eggs, I'm not sure how much sausage, maybe a quarter pound. So not too much. And then with that, I'll have like a bowl of oatmeal with a scoop of protein powder inside. I think that's also a cool trick is protein and oatmeal. Yeah, especially with all these flavors they're coming out with. Anything that's cinnamon based, put it in oatmeal. It's awesome. Like the horchata by Black Magic, that one's amazing in oatmeal. It's so good.
Oh, dude, I'm gonna have to try that.
Yeah, dude, it's good. And that's kind of my breakfast, so that's quite a bit of carbs right there, just from the. It's a good mixture, right? And I'll have some berries. Kind of helps some carbs too, and it helps with digestion. As you notice, like the more you eat and the more protein, the more you need like fiber to help you, help your body. And then, going into lunch, so about 3/4 of a pound of ground beef and about probably 2.5 cut up and air fried yellow potatoes. There'll be some cheese on that for some flavor, and usually like a salsa or a hot sauce is usually my lunch. And then after that, the next meal is my pre-workout meal, which is usually just strictly carbs. So it just depends on the day. Sometimes there'll be like something like zucchini bread, or today it was 2 English muffins, and then I had a protein shake, so 30 grams of protein. That was my pre-workout meal. And then kind of throughout the day, at some point in the day, I'll have a electrolyte drink. So I like the Elements, so it's 1,000 milligrams of sodium, so quite a bit. Yeah, throughout the day I'm trying to stay hydrated, especially now that it's summer. And then I'll work out, and then post-workout meal honestly depends. So I'm not trying to cut or anything right now, so it kind of depends on what I cook. Some days it's a little bit cleaner, some days it's less clean. I think one of the cleaner meals, actually what I'm eating tonight, it's going to be bowl of rice with salmon and shrimp and some veggies. Honestly, not too bulky, but it's a big meal, so it definitely fills you up. And then before I go to bed, sometimes I'll have a bowl of cereal, sometimes I won't. I definitely sleep better if I don't like shove my face before I go to bed.
I'm the same way.
I mean, your digestive system slows down at night, so that's the best. But yeah, that's usually like a normal day of eating for me. A long time ago that probably seemed like a lot to me, but now it's kind of like maintenance.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think your metabolism has gone up? Why is that?
I think my metabolism's honestly slowed down a little bit, but I think that's I honestly don't know, but I think my calorie expenditure is definitely more now. And then being a bigger dude now, I need that to keep it.
Yeah. You got all kinds of muscle now. Yeah. So before the gym, you go first. You said mostly pretty much just carbs, maybe a little protein shake or something like that. Mm-hmm. Is that something you do on purpose, like just to?
Yeah, I feel like the carbs gives me some energy. Sometimes I won't have a protein shake, but for sure carbs. Yeah,
nice. Okay.
I try to definitely make sure that I'm carved up. So I think my lunch is usually pretty lean, just because it's quicker to eat. And then but I do like to carb up. Some people have crazy carb ups, they'll have like a carb like shake and stuff, but even if it's just like a sandwich, I think it's just getting any carbs in you kind of helps me a little bit, especially on heavier days.
Yeah. And are you thinking just about getting in carbs, or are you also thinking about limiting the fat in that scenario, or is it just kind of?
I'm not too worried about it, but I'm not trying to eat something super fatty, know? So.
And the only reason I ask that is because, there's that concept, I guess, that fat will slow down the digestion of the carbohydrates and things like that. Mm-hmm. I was just curious if that's kind of the reasoning that you were doing that.
I wouldn't say that's the reasoning, but I think I just probably am trying not to have something too fatty before a workout. I want something that goes down quick and doesn't make me feel full. It's not really fun feeling full when you've got a tight belt on and you're trying to squat.
Oh, yeah. And on that note, I guess do you give yourself a certain amount of time after your last meal before the workout?
At least an hour.
At least an hour.
Yeah.
Just kind of let the blow go down a little bit.
Yeah. That's for sure.
And you said in the breakfast, I don't know if I heard this right, but you said pre-made eggs and sausage?
Yeah.
So what do you mean by pre-made?
Like I've made it like it's almost like meal prep.
Okay. So you just cook a bunch of eggs up and a bunch of sausage.
Yeah, because usually in the mornings I don't have too much time. Well, I'd have more time if I got up earlier, but I don't want to get up earlier. So
yeah,
it's nice just having that ready to go.
And how do you make that, man? That's kind of cool.
Usually just like on a Sunday, I'll cook up probably like a dozen eggs and a pound of sausage, like in a pan, season it and stuff, and then put it in about 4 containers. Split it up.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
And you just kind of grab it and go, or nice.
Yeah.
And earlier you were talking about like the Trend twins.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on, I guess, steroid usage in general? Is it like
I think it's one of those things, like some things I'm not gonna say like, oh yeah, it's great, everyone should be on steroids, but it's obviously a personal choice. I'm not gonna say I don't think anyone needs to be on steroids. Obviously, from a getting bigger standpoint, I think I'll just quickly draw the line between, like, we're talking steroids, we're not talking TRT or getting YouTube. We're talking for anabolic reasons, like extreme anabolic reasons. I think in the past, especially probably not the knowledge that people have today, there's a lot more abuse, and they got like a big like stigma to them. I think at the end of the day, there's a lot of things that can kill you. You know, if someone's like hugely obese and telling you, "Oh, you shouldn't be taking that testosterone. It's gonna kill you." You're like, "Bro, what do you mean?" Like, you know. I definitely think that it's definitely not healthy if abused. Definitely think that that's probably, if you're considering that, you should consider, like, there's that talk of, like, when you're done growing, like, naturally. I don't think anyone's ever done growing naturally. Like, I think there's still gains to be made, but I think it's definitely for the more experienced lifters, and it's definitely a personal decision, as there is many health risks depending on what you do. I think I definitely like that people are more open about it, or I don't know if it's just because, like, we weren't, like, I wasn't in the gym as much, but I've talked to people, and people say people are a lot more open about it, and I think that prevents people from doing dumb stuff because they're not knowledgeable on it. Like, if anything, there's risks, but being able to mitigate those is probably important. And I know a lot of people that there's people, a lot of people that do steroids, and there's people that do it in such a way that it's extremely healthy. They're getting their blood work done. They're dialed. Like, they're really not going to have too many health risks. And there's people that don't know what they're doing, that are abusing it out, not even like way too young of an age, but just not doing it the right way, and are going to damage their bodies permanently. So I think it's like anything where, like, too much is not a good thing. That's like the same thing as, it's not the same thing as, but it's like you can have a few beers a week and be fine, but at that point when you're drinking multiple beers a night, getting, like, it's horrible for your body, it's not good for you.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And then what you mentioned about the blood work thing, that also has been something I've kind of I never really thought about so much before, but like now that I've talked to Mike and Joseph and Will about it, it kind of opened my eyes a little bit to the fact that I was like, I haven't gotten my blood work done ever.
Yeah, so I've gotten my blood work done before. I think, even if you're not gonna, like, do steroids, I think it's still good to, like, know what your body's doing. I think that's the whole purpose of blood work. For the steroid part, like, you're altering your hormones. You want to see how your body's responding. It doesn't just, testosterone itself doesn't just increase your testosterone. It increases your red blood cell count. It increases your estrogen. Like, you need to know that what your body's doing, so then you can stay safe. At the same time, even if you're not on stuff, like, I don't know, someone, for example, could go get their blood work done, and their testosterone's at like super, super low levels and they're 20. I'm like, okay, what's going on here? Do you have an unhealthy lifestyle? That can be a reason for it. Or, and I think that's where like, okay, maybe TRT comes in and it can help improve the quality of someone's life a lot. Or there's a million other things you can tell from that. I know, not just for men, for like women too. So I think it's kind of good to be in tune with your body as much as you can.
Yeah, I would agree. And I have like this, they call it chronic kidney disease.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically like one of my kidneys doesn't really function and the other one's doing all the work.
Yeah.
And I realistically should be getting my blood work done like way more often than I am.
Yeah.
And it kind of just made me realize, I was like, wow, like, at first glance, I'm not even going to lie, like at first glance, I would have, especially before talking to them about it, I probably would have had some sort of preconceived judgment on the concept of Mike, Will, and Joseph taking steroids. For example, I would think to myself, like, yeah, that's like a non-healthy choice sort of thing. And I'm not saying that it's optimal for health.
Yeah, right.
But it did make me realize, I was like, they're responsible about it. Like, they're mitigating the risks and they're actually going out of their way to get this blood work done often. Where it's like, I have this kidney issue and I'm still not getting the blood work done often. That's like, made me realize I guess I shouldn't be so quick to jump on the judgment train.
Yeah, I agree. I think, I definitely agree. And I think it's pretty easy for, I think, a lot of people, because I'm not exactly 100% sure why, I guess, steroids got so, like, stigmatized to, like, an extreme aspect, I feel like. I mean, obviously, they are, like, illegal, not for use without being prescribed to by a doctor. But I think, like I said, there's so many other things that can kill you that I think people are pretty quick to, like, point fingers. But it's like, man, you're doing this. This is really unhealthy. You live a very unhealthy lifestyle. You drink way too much caffeine or something like that. Like, it's not good for you. But I don't know.
Did you happen to see that videos? More plates, more dates? Okay.
Yeah.
Did you happen to see that video that he came out with recently, where like he tests Andrew Tate? Like, he gets like all kinds of different blood. He got like $15,000 worth of blood tests for Andrew Tate and his brother, and basically they just came to the conclusion in the video that he decided that Andrew Tate's probably not on steroids based off of all the blood tests that he ran and things like that. Like, do you think that it's like, was that something you ever thought about? Were you thinking to yourself, like, Andrew Tate's probably on steroids, or is it?
I think I just thought about it now. I don't know. I think he has a pretty achievable physique, but that's not to say that there's a bunch of people who have naturally achievable physiques that are on steroids, But, no, I didn't think about that. I do think that's interesting, though, that he claimed that. But I think, people that are on steroids aren't on them year-round. So, like, what's to say that, I don't know, Andrew Tate did a 16-week cycle and then completely came off, And
okay.
So, I don't know.
So you think there is a chance still?
I think there's a chance, yeah. I mean, I'm sure there might be some telltale signs, but I wouldn't be surprised if you could basically tell, like, not notice it. Because, he doesn't have any, like, his testosterone should theoretically go back into a normal range or a non-extreme range.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I whenever I was originally watching it, I just thought it was kind of interesting. And I actually have a video coming out about this today, about just like how, like, people's perspective on what's attainable naturally, I feel like has been skewed slightly.
We talked about it. Yeah, you were asking me on Tuesday.
Yeah, and like, I guess my take on it is that, like, definitely some people overestimate what's possible naturally because of guys that claim natty, even though they're probably not.
Which I think is horrible. I really think that, no one's going to bash people. I think, especially maybe in the past, but I think we said there's so many, like, bodybuilders that are completely open to steroid use that there's no reason to kind of hide it.
Yeah. And those particular guys definitely, I think, will skew the perspective a little bit in that direction, where people overestimate what's possible without taking steroids.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess, in generally speaking, I would say that, like, more often than not, people are gonna underestimate what's possible without steroids now, just because they assume everybody's on them, sort of thing.
I agree, but you got to think too. All these dudes on steroids are natural at some point. Which I think is, I guess, for instance, going back to the Trend Twins, when they started their channel, they were both completely natural. You know, they were college athletes. They both bench 405 for like reps and stuff. For super strong dudes, crazy physiques. They're the name Trend Twins for fun. Like, they weren't on trend. They weren't on anything.
Really?
And, yeah.
I didn't
they
know
blew
about
up,
that.
and obviously, like, eventually they did start taking steroids, but those dudes were huge. Were huge natural and stuff too.
Were they, like, big enough naturally where people were probably thinking that they were already?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. See, that's interesting to me, and it's interesting to me that people will, like, I guess for some reason, maybe I'm not giving them enough credit or something like that, but it almost seems like I wouldn't even think, whenever I see Andrew Tate, I wouldn't think, my mind wouldn't go to steroids, I guess, whenever I see Andrew Tate.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know if that's just, it's probably partially his physique, but also partially because that's not what, we don't think of Andrew Tate as a gym influencer, really.
Yeah, you're right. In that video, it's funny too, man. Apparently, Andrew Tate will drink like 10 to 15 cups of coffee per day and smokes like 15 cigars per day.
See, might as well take steroids.
yeah, exactly. And funnily enough, I guess apparently he has one meal per day. So, like, he'll spend the entire day smoking cigars
I think
and
nicotine
drinking coffee.
is an appetite suppressant too.
I think caffeine might be as well,
Yeah.
honestly.
That makes sense.
So, yeah, that's just wild to me. And then I guess apparently he doesn't really, he has this, like, this is all just from that video that I was watching, More Plates, More Dates, but apparently he has this whole thing too where he only sleeps when he feels tired enough to sleep. And, you know, like, some people will try to get a certain amount of sleep. I guess he'll just literally try to sleep only whenever he feels exhausted. And, just kind of wild, you know?
Yeah, that's interesting. I think at a certain point you're so tired that you're not really productive anymore. You're in like zombie mode, just trying to get through it. So,
and he has like chronically high blood pressure apparently.
I think I'm not surprised.
Yeah, exactly. The lobotomist, like, I think, put the first blood draw needle into his arm, and she was just like amazed by the flow rate that he was generating. So, in terms of steroid abuse, what would you say constitutes abuse versus just?
See, I think again, like, it's kind of like an invisible like line there. I don't really know, to be honest. Professional, especially open bodybuilders, take a lot of steroids. You know, I'm not sure if I was to say that that'd be abuse, because that's almost like their livelihood. It's part of their job, you know.
Yeah.
I'm sure they honestly have like a doctor telling them like, all right, this is what you should take. You know, obviously there's going to be some severe health risks to that, but I don't know. I think it's like not like the average person or people in the gym that are taking that same amount that an open bodybuilder would be taking, you know. And I also think you know, you should probably have everything else dialed in with your training and your diet before considering steroids. It's not, I don't think, based off the people we've talked to, it's not a cheat, you know?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
How many people do you think there are that are just taking steroids, but like taking the wrong ones at the wrong time, sort of thing? It's something I was thinking about the other day. It was almost
Yeah,
like,
I think we'd be surprised. I think, obviously, I'm a person who thinks through things like a lot and really thinks things out, and I feel like you are too, just from the interactions we've had at the gym. But I think there's people who are just like, oh, I just watched a YouTube video about this. Like, I think obviously steroids are harder to get, but like things like SARMs, like Rad 140, which increases your testosterone unnaturally, is pretty easy for people to get, and I'm sure, like, you know, a lot of people just like or get it from a buddy, and they're just like so quick to not think about the risk. So I think we'd probably be surprised if you know, we're not gonna get an answer if we go ask everyone in town, hey, are you on steroids? We're probably gonna get a lot of people who are gonna be like, no, that are. But if we could just like see, I'm sure we'd be surprised. We'd be blown away, to be honest.
Really?
Yeah, I think so.
Like, because we would underestimate like how many people are actually on them, sort of thing. Or okay,
Yeah.
yeah, I guess that would make sense to me, especially in the gym culture itself. You know,
Oh yeah.
like I can picture people that don't go to the gym at all. I can't imagine why they would have the same, I guess, want or need to take them.
Yeah, I think it might be a little bit less. I think I think you're exactly right. People who don't go to the gym are probably not gonna. They're not gonna be around the culture that talks about that as much, you know. But definitely in the gym. Obviously, this isn't just our gym, but a lot of gyms. I think we'd be surprised.
And then earlier you mentioned kind of about how transparency seems to be like you kind of genuinely find that as kind of like wrong. I guess was that accurate, or like I'm not like wrong in the sense that like I'm saying I guess it's wrong for somebody to lie about not taking them. Like for example, like what do you think about Michael?
I think that kind of just. I think at this point everyone knows that he's not natty, but I do think it's for someone like Mike that has such a big platform. I think it's definitely important.
Or like Liver King, for example, who got
like Liver King. Obviously, like he kind of destroyed his life at this point, but yeah, like people have such a big like following and stuff. Like, I think it's probably good to be honest with people about. I don't like you don't have to completely break down your cycle, everything you're taking, but just because it's definitely disappointing to some people. Like if you look up to someone and they're like, "Yeah, dude, I'm natural." Like you're gonna get just as strong as me, you're just as big as me, like so quick, and then you find out that they're lying to you or whatever.
And then what do you think about how many people in professional powerlifting specifically? Do you think there's a lot of guys that are sneaking it in there somehow?
See, I'm honestly not sure. Obviously, like the top whatever people in weight class usually they usually get tested right after. But I think, like I kind of said earlier, I feel like there's kind of ways to, maybe you're quote unquote natural during your meet, but maybe you were on cycle earlier in the year or something,
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I don't really know. Obviously, be disappointed if some of my favorite natural powerlifters weren't.
Yeah, I get you.
But at the same time, I think, there's untested powerlifting too, but I'm not sure. I think it'd be interesting to see. I'm really not sure.
No, that's totally fair. Yeah, I wouldn't even have a guess, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
How much do you think it would help for the powerlifters? Because at a certain extent, I feel like it almost. I mean, obviously it would help. It would make you stronger, obviously, but like in the long term, for example, I think we had a conversation about this the other day too, where like there are some negative health effects you get from steroid usage, and would that sort of mitigate the benefits that you get in the short term over the long term?
I'm not sure. I think it would be really complicated if you're trying not to get caught using them. But I don't know. I think if they did use it, it'd probably be mostly for off-season growth and just hoping to keep that strength, or at least as much of that strength as you can going into your meet, but being natural. You're not going to be as strong as you were on steroids, but hopefully being stronger than you were before that. I guess. I don't know. I think it would just get really complicated. Honestly.
Yeah. You probably even have to hide your PRs whenever you're enhanced, sort of thing, just because it would be kind of strange if you're getting these crazy enhanced PRs.
Yeah, it's like, this dude just broke a crazy deadlift record but in his gym, but then couldn't do that. It wasn't even close at the meet or something,
Yeah. You went through earlier your full day of eating. That was really cool.
Yeah.
What about recovery? Do you have any like things you go for, like you track sleep? Do you do anything like meditation, anything like that?
Honestly, I'm probably not that good about recovery. I definitely think that's probably been one of the things I've been needing to work on lately, whether that's stretching, adequate sleep. Um, I usually do go to bed around the same time every night, but I usually get 7 hours of sleep, if that, which is like it's decent. It's definitely enough to run off of, but it'd definitely be ideal if I could get 8. But even doing some like yoga or some stretching at home would probably be really beneficial for me. I just don't. I think it's hard to make time for it sometimes. Well, I say it's hard to make time for it, but it's really not. It's also not that hard to go to bed a little bit earlier. You just need to maybe cut out some of that time that you're sitting there watching TikTok or something.
Yeah,
I think a lot of people say that they're like really busy or don't have time for stuff, but it's more like they really don't want to make the time for it. And I think that's definitely where I struggle with like the maybe sleeping a little bit more, because I'm like, oh, I'm fine, I can run off of 7 hours of sleep, so I'll be okay. Or I really don't feel like stretching, so I'm not going to stretch.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense.
Yeah.
And I mean, you're a busy guy with work too. You work, what is it, 4 days a week?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
And then how many hours are you working?
I work 40 hours a week, so I work 4/10s. So I get into work about 5:36 and leave at 3:34, and so getting up early is kind of like the part, and get home, go to the gym at 6. By the time I get home, usually, and then next thing I know, it's like 9 and I'm watching like a show on the couch, and then I'm like, oh crap, it's 10. I need to go to bed now.
Yeah.
But I think it is pretty easy just to get caught up in just doing. It is important, I think, to relax too. But I could have been stretching while I was watching TV. So.
Yeah, I get what you mean. Yeah, I mean, like everybody, I guess, has something they can improve on or whatever,
Right.
something they can optimize or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely, I don't think I would be wanting to stretch or wanting to do much after the 10-hour shift, plus the gym, then getting home, and you probably have to make some dinner or whatever. Yeah. What do you do for work?
So I work for Sandia Laboratories. I'm a technologist, so my stuff ranges from we do a lot of different testing, so it's performing those tests, whatever they are, and usually building parts to be able to test that stuff, whether that's like welding, machining some stuff, design work. I kind of do a lot. I think the best way to describe what I do is like a glorified jack of all trades, and mostly just being able to figure out and make something work that probably shouldn't work.
Dude, nice. Yeah, okay. That's actually a really cool job.
Yeah.
You enjoy that?
Yeah, I do. I really enjoy it.
Yeah, I think I can't remember if it was Alex that was telling me that you're real good at welding, or maybe it was Isaiah actually.
Yeah. Oh, one of them. Yeah.
Yeah, and then do you enjoy the welding?
Oh yeah, I definitely do. That's probably one of my favorite things to do for sure.
And that comes into play outside of work sometimes too.
Yeah,
right?
It does. Sometimes I'll do side jobs or just at my own place or for other people. Alex, I welded a winch mount on his trailer for his race car, for his Evo. So, yeah.
Dude, nice, yeah. And how do you balance, I guess, the 40-hour work week with coming to the gym after and then...
Honestly, sometimes lately it's been a little bit hard. I think there's some days where, like, I've worked a little bit longer. I'm just beat, and it was a hard day, and I'm like, holy, there's no way I'm gonna get a good workout in. I think it's good to be able to know, like, when there's honestly just no way, and it's better for your body to rest. That's what I've had to do quite a bit lately, but usually it was like Sunday was kind of my rest day, but lately that's been a workout day, and I've taken the rest day during the week kind of when I need it.
Okay.
So that definitely helps me, but yeah, definitely it is a little bit harder sometimes, but I find I used to go home before I went to the gym, go home, eat, kind of, I guess, like cool off a little bit and then come back to the gym, but I noticed I got really lazy and really tired. It was really easy to tell myself, all right, I'm not coming to the gym. So now I just have all my stuff and I'll just come straight from work here.
Nice.
So
Okay.
like, I'm here. I got to work out.
Yeah, that makes sense. Do you think that, because you kind of mentioned how like there's some days that you probably know you're not going to get to work good lifting, it's going to be better to rest.
Yeah.
Is that like something that experienced people should do more? Or is it like, because it almost seems like it could be a slippery slope sort of thing where.
Yeah, and I think obviously we talked about in the beginning of this those days where you don't want to and you got to push yourself. But I think there's a difference between those days that you don't want to and those days that you'll actually benefit more from resting. And I think being disciplined enough to draw that line. Like those days that you're like, all right, I'm being a bitch. Like, let's go. And those days like that you're like, I'm really still sore or I'm really tired. Like, I just need to go home, eat, and kind of refuel.
It's like a combination of like learning your body and being honest with yourself sort of thing. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And do you bring a lunch to work usually? Or?
Yeah, I do. So yeah, I'll bring that lunch and I'll eat it. Yeah.
Nice. Okay. And that's kind of like the air fried potatoes and beef you said, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then
that's part of my day.
Really? Yeah.
I get excited. It's almost lunchtime. Yeah.
Nice. Do you have like a recipe that you follow on the beef and potatoes, or is it?
Not really. It's just cooked. A little bit of like spray olive oil on the potatoes whenever you put them in the air fryer, get them a little bit crispy. Try not to go crazy on that. And then ground beef, usually it's like the 90-10 ground beef. Try for something a little bit leaner.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you try to limit fat then in your diet overall, or?
I think because sort of in my main food, because if I'm gonna eat fat, I'd rather it be from like something like sweet or like.
Nice. Okay. Yeah.
So where I'm not too like worried about it, you know, because then now with the sweet thing, okay, I'm more worried about like the sugar, but it's more like oh well. But I'm not as much worried about the fat because everything else that I eat was pretty lean.
And what do you think about the? I mean, I don't want to call it a trend necessarily, like, but it almost seems like more and more now you'll kind of hear people talk about how bad sugar is, how like how many negative effects there are from sugar. Is that why you kind of try to limit it, or is it?
I think so. I definitely can tell now if I have too much sugar, I definitely feel lethargic. Obviously, it messes with your glucose. It spikes it like crazy, and then it drops really quick. Where you'd rather that slow kind of that you get from carbs. Sugar and carbs both affect your glucose. Sugar spikes it really quick, but also drops off really quick, whereas carbs are able to hold that like a more medium or steady.
Like the glycemic index.
Yep.
Yeah.
So.
And you kind of try to limit those harsh spikes in glucose?
Yeah. I think I'm not like crazy about like, oh, I can't have sugar, this has too much sugar, but I kind of know when like I've had enough sugar for today and probably going to be okay to not have more.
Yeah. What do you think about the kind of more extreme diets, I guess, like real restrictive diets? Like, for example, a carnivore seems to be more popular now than I've seen it in the past.
I think I could do carnivore, honestly. I like steak, I like eggs. Looks pretty good cooked up on a cutting board.
Oh, dude, yeah. The wooden cutting board.
Yeah, it's pretty good. But I don't know. I think for me, you know, some people are probably a lot more disciplined than me, but it's easy to get burnt out from something. And then obviously, like, I guess the right term would be like relapse. Like, if you have a crappy diet and you go just straight into eating just super, super clean, like, that second that you stop, you're going to relapse hard and be like, I want all this other stuff. So being able to find a happy medium, like, it's all right to have like a soda every once in a while. Probably shouldn't have multiple in a day. But like, say like 3 weeks, like that's completely fine. Like it's really not going to harm your body. You know, having like a few scoops of ice cream like for dessert one night, like it's not that big of a deal. But if you're I think a big thing I take away is everything's good in moderation. Like, it's not everything, but a lot of things are good in moderation. Whereas a sugary food, you know, just like other things are, yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, you can include it.
Relaxing. That's good for you to relax and kind of stretch your brain off, but in moderation.
Do you have any like core training philosophies that guide how you've trained over the years or anything like that?
Yeah, I'd say so. Like I said, I'm pretty bad about sticking to like a solid program. But I definitely think whatever I do, I'm going to do it with like good form. So form is not something that I deviate from ever. And then I guess honestly just making sure I hit every compound lift at least once a week has been like the biggest thing. Whether that's high reps, low reps light, low reps heavy. I've kind of definitely tried to base like my workouts off of those core lifts. And then I think, I really try to focus on going really hard in those core lifts first. That's like the first thing that I'm going to do first thing in my workout. And then after that, I guess not taper down, but maybe still same intensity, but we're tapering down that volume for that weight for sure. Throughout kind of the end of the workout. I'd like to think that my workouts go from the hardest thing to the easiest. So for like a leg day, we're starting with heavy squats, ending with calf raises. Calf raises are pretty easy, even to take those to failure. But in between there, we might go squats, and then we might go some Bulgarian split squats, which those are hard, but they're not as you're not loading up as much weight as you are when you're doing regular squats. And then some leg extension, which is still hard, but still getting a little bit easier. You're sitting down, you're limiting the amount of muscles being worked there, and then finishing with like calves or something. It would be the same for like a bench day. We're benching, then we might be doing incline bench, but then we might be doing flies, and then at the end we're doing like some sets of triceps.
Yeah, okay, that makes a lot of sense. So it's almost like you start with the most compound movements and most amount of muscles.
The thing that you want to exert the most amount of energy. That's gonna. If you're squatting, you're using a whole lot of muscles versus leg extension. You're using two. Really just one isolation. But
and what constitutes good form for you?
I wouldn't say a slow like descent or a slow negative, but a controlled. I think there's a difference between controlled, slow, and just not controlled at all. For sure, controlled. Whether it's squats, like we're always getting good depth. I think as a power lifter, especially with like everything, you kind of want to have like a ritual, so when you squat, you're squatting the exact same every single time, no matter how much weight's on that bar. You're unracking it the exact same,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's important. So then when you get into high pressure, like meet situation, you're ready to go. Then for your accessories, controlling that weight. No half reps here. I think it is different if you're pushing to failure and let's just say you're doing some lat pull downs and you're up here, you're pulling down, and then you're about to get to failure, so you only get to here. I think that's cool. You're pushing yourself. That's as far as you could go, but it's different if you could go all the way and you're not. But I think that constitutes good form for me. Is just mostly controlling that weight. There's no point in doing it if you're not going to control it. And I think it's more dangerous too to not control it.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. Yeah. And also, like you said, with the consistency aspect, like some people will have these certain type of forms that were almost like very, very hit or miss. You know what I mean? Like dive bombing squats is a very hit or miss type of form thing. Like it works well for some people, but you could definitely misgroove very easily doing that.
I think we see it a lot more here on bench. Honestly, some of the dudes who have the way bigger benches than us,
you're right, yeah,
do not control their bench at all. They dive bomb it, and I can't say too much because they're way stronger than us in bench, but it's definitely dangerous and not the best form. I'm sure those guys with proper training for load would honestly probably blow up their bench a lot more. So I like to think of bench as a slingshot. You're loading it back and then explode.
Yeah.
So, not
So
a
they
dive bomb. You
explode.
shouldn't use your rib cage as a trampoline.
Yeah.
I think you tend to see dive bombing. Well, yeah, on bench and a lot more with like people who are first learning how to squat. Maybe I think me and you would probably die or break a knee or something if we dive bombed like a heavy squat. So
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I think you're right, yeah.
so at a certain point, it's a necessity to control the weight.
Yeah, another form like that I would say is like the super wide sumo stances, like where they really wedge super hard into the position. I feel like I see people misgroove those quite a bit.
Yeah, I think I don't have like an opinion on sumo, other than it's allowed. So then it's fine.
So sumo's not cheating.
I wouldn't say so. I
Yeah.
can't sumo as much as I can conventional. I can sumo. I think I've sumoed 500, but it's not going to be my conventional. Maybe if I trained at it more, but that's just not for me. But I don't have a problem with people who do sumo. But yeah, like you said, I'm more like technical. It is more technical. I feel like that's why you tend to see people misgroove, because they have to get that wedge just perfect, else it's just not going to work.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense.
Yeah.
And this kind of just been like a little philosophical question I've been asking people. Like, it's not even like that philosophical or anything. And I was kind of curious to see what you think. How strong is strong enough, or how fit is fit enough?
Strength and fitness, in my mind, are completely different. When I think of fitness, I think more of like longevity. Obviously, you're gonna get stronger for hopefully quite a bit for the next like at least 15, 20 years. But at a certain point, our bodies are just gonna degrade a little bit where we can't keep that up. That's where like fitness comes in. Like, we're trying to stay fit. But I think for fit enough, I don't know if there's a limit for fit enough, and for strong enough, I don't think there's a limit. I think I think there's tiers to it for sure, but like a limit, like I don't think I'm ever gonna. Whenever someone deadlifts 510 kilograms, I'm not gonna be like, yeah, that's way too much. People should just stop deadlifting. No one should try to beat that. So I don't know. I don't think there's a limit.
Yeah, okay.
No,
I don't think.
I don't think I'll ever say I'm too strong. I need to stop. Maybe I'm too big. I could see where it could be negatively affecting your life to be too big. I think we see open bodybuilders like wearing sleep apnea masks because of how big they are. Bodies aren't meant to handle that much weight. But I don't think there's anyone that's probably been like, I'm too strong, I need to stop.
Yeah.
Maybe once we notice that we're just like accidentally like knocking down walls and stuff. But it's never gonna happen. So
would you say that like we should never feel like completely content necessarily, in the sense that we should always be setting up next
I do think
goal?
there's a balance. You need to know when you achieve something and kind of like can mentally reward yourself. Know that like you've done good, which I think it's good to see those videos of how far you've come from something. But I do think it's really good to have goals. I don't think I'm ever gonna be like, I deadlifted too much, that's it, we're done.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Cancel my membership. It's not gonna happen.
Yeah. Yeah. My life is complete.
Yeah, I think I remember, I deadlift 315, and I was like, it's gonna be crazy when I hit 405. It's gonna be crazy when I hit 405. Hit 405, I was like, oh, I need 455, and then I was like, I need 5 plates. This is gonna be crazy when I deadlift 5 plates. And then it was like, oh, I need 6. And then now it's just like, oh, I need 7. And it's like, that was like everything. And I'm like, it's just never going to stop until I think I'm just going to be like, yeah, my body's just, it's done.
You think you're going to hit 7 on deadlift at some point?
I think so.
Nice.
I'm 20. I think I'll be able to hit 7. 8s are definitely pushing, well, even 7s are. And 8s are definitely pushing it into like probably like a world class like competing kind of level. So it'll be interesting to see what body weight I'm able to do that at. But I would like to pull 7 sub 200 at some point.
Oh, that's gonna be sick, man.
Not in the next year, but maybe the next 2 to 3 years be nice. Obviously, as we get to a certain point, our lifts do start slowing down, and instead of fighting for like was 50-pound jumps, and it was 20, and then now we're like 5-pound jumps. But we'll take that 5 pounds.
Yeah.
5 pounds is the difference between 595 and 600. So I think it's important to take those little wins for sure. But yeah, hopefully I'll pull 7 one day.
So you're only 20, but you've been at it for a while now, so you've accumulated quite a bit of experience.
Yeah.
Would there be any type of like advice that you could, if you like, let's say you could have a time machine, you can go back to your 15-year-old self or maybe even 12-year-old self, and would there be any advice or tips or anything like that you'd give yourself?
I don't think there's anything different I would do in the gym per se that would drastically change where I am in the gym right now. But I think just to anyone that it's like, learn your body, know your body, because that's, I think, what I've learned the most from the gym is those days, like we said, like those days where you can't push, shouldn't push, or something's not feeling good, or those days where you can push really hard, like those days where your body's feeling really good, let's take advantage of it and push. I think that's the biggest thing I've definitely learned, is to be more in tune with my body. I think that's helped me be a healthier person too.
Any like general life advice outside of the gym?
Be patient with people. I think be kind. It's really easy to get frustrated over little mundane things that come our way, but at the end of the day, does it really matter? It really doesn't. It affects us more if we worry about it. So obviously you never know what other people are going through either. Not to say it's right for someone to like disrespect you in a certain way, but like, is anything good going to come out of like confronting someone about it or like making a deal out of it? You're not going to you'll probably feel better like just being like, whatever, I guess that guy's just having a bad day, instead of letting that ruin your day.
Yeah, I like that a lot, actually. Yeah. What about for your future self? Like, let's say you're watching this at 25, or maybe even you're older, you know what I mean?
Shoot. Well, please don't slip a disc in your back deadlifting too much. Knock on wood. I don't know. I just really hope that with, I guess, everything I do, not just the gym, that I just kind of keep giving it my all, especially on those days that I don't feel like it. I guess not just with the gym, with work, with family, with friends. I think up to this point in my life so far, basically, every seemingly dumb or little or smart action I've made has like led me to a place where, I'm pretty good with where I'm at right now. So hopefully, I just go with the flow and it works out.
Yeah, I like that one also, man. And then as a little final question here, it's kind of a fun one that I haven't asked people too, is you got any gym pet peeves?
Pet peeves. Oh, at first it used to be grunting. I think Will kind of made me acclimate to that for sure. And almost, I probably grunt a little bit now, to be honest, on some things. Biggest pet peeve is hogging equipment. Which we're probably the wrong people to be saying that. I think we hog equipment a lot, but I think it's different. I bought those weights out there. So, but anyways, hogging equipment really bugs me a lot. There's been, especially when you notice someone might be waiting for it. I think I'm trying to be better about, like, if I know someone looking at something, I'm using like, hey man, go on working or whatever. But yeah, we gotta share. We all pay the same. None of us are special. The only person that can go do that is Mike. Can tell someone to get off, but she's not going to. But yeah, we all gotta. This is our place to keep clean, respect the equipment, and just get along with each other. There's no reason to have gym enemies or whatever. So yeah, if you see someone, if you see me staring at the squat rack, you know, you might want to finish your set because it's my turn.
It's kind of strange how some people like don't want to share.
Yeah, there's been a few times, like, I think I got here, like, super excited for deadlifts. Like, I'm amped. And, like, there's people that were just, like, messing around on the deadlift rack for a long time. And you're like, oh, they're on their last set. And they're really not. And I think, at first, like, I make friends pretty quick, but until I'm friends with someone, like, I'm really not going to go talk to them, you know? So, yeah, but I think it's kind of disappointing when, you know, you take some pre-workout, you're amped up, ready to go, and you're just sitting there for a while getting angry the whole time.
Oh, dude, yeah, especially since the caffeine peaks around 30 minutes after or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, heck yeah, I appreciate you doing this with me, Ethan. And anything else you want to tell the people before we leave, or any social media you want to drop in?
I mean, go on my Instagram, but there's really nothing special. There's my highlights of lifting, but hopefully I'll do a meet soon, and 1,600 pound total. So
nice.
That's the next goal.
All right.
Sure, you know, Adam's on that wave of just smashing the totals. I think we got a good group here. I think be cool. Maybe let's do some different videos soon, some workout videos.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah. If you guys enjoyed this whole thing, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and if you want to check out any of Ethan's epic lifts, I'll throw his Instagram in the description below. And thank you guys for watching.